Mi gente, what's up? ¿Qué pasa? Bienvenidos. Welcome to another episode, otro episodio de Hoy en Día TV. I am your host, Yessi Rodriguez, and I'm going to bring out my co-host, Ciandra. Welcome.
Hey. Hello. What's up, people?
How are you doing? Good to see you today.
Doing good. Making it happen. You know what I'm saying? We were chatting a little bit earlier behind stage, and, we're moms, y'all. Okay, right? We're working women, and we're making it happen. And so we're here, there, we're everywhere. But thanks be to God, we're here on Hoy en Día TV tonight for you. Okay.
Absolutely. And shout out to our other co-host, Nadine, who is out on location. She is promoting her books, selling books. So shout out to her from afar.
Yes, we love you. Mwah.
Absolutely. Yes. Mwah. We have some really juicy, interesting topics to talk about, and we have an amazing guest today. So another amazing action-packed, I say action-packed because, we have a little bit of this and that here going on, right? In Spanish, I call it adobo, sazon. We got with sofrito. Are you familiar with the adobo, sazon, sofrito?
Yes, I love those. Absolutely. I love those spices. That's right. I do the sazon on everything. Like, it's so good. It's just so good. The sofrito, everything. Yes. You're talking my language. I'm doing Duolingo to really kind of brush up on my Spanish. And they gave me some gold stars. And they said, now I can really kind of talk to people, introduce myself. I can order food. That's like a biggie for me because I like to eat. So it's like the most important.
I am impressed. So let's practice. Vamos a practicar.
Go very, very slow. Very slow.
I love it. Yes. Oh, what's so cool? I'm all using Duolingo to study French. So, je parle beaucoup français. Je l'étudie de 4 ans le français dans l'école. I'm like,
I like it.
Thanks. It's interesting. I mean, I like the little stars that it gives me. Like, I feel like, wow, I'm doing something. I'm learning. So it's a rewarding feeling. So shout out to Duolingo for helping Cece with the Spanish and me with the parle français.
Now, let me ask you this before we move away from Duolingo. Who's your favorite character on Duolingo?
Oh, the little main birdie. I have a little birdie.
I like Lily. Because she's like nonchalant. She really doesn't care about anybody. She's like, you get something right. She's like, yeah. She rolls her eyes. She's funny.
Yes, funny.
She doesn't hype you all up like the other characters. You're kind of like, yeah, so what? You got it right? Yeah, all right. Good job.
Yeah, when I first encountered her, I was a little like, wait, what's going on right now? But I get it. I mean, they're trying to attract different personalities. I respect that. You're right. She's funny. Now I just laugh at her. I'm like, okay, whatever. That is hilarious. So it is Women's History Month still. And we have some amazing women to shout out. Cece, I know earlier you had brought up Shirley Ann Jackson.
Absolutely. Shirley, my girl, my sister from another mister. Yes. Shirley's doing it big. So for those of you that don't know, or maybe, you do know, but Shirley Ann Jackson, right? She was an American scientist and also an educator. And our girl, hey, she's responsible for this right here, this cell phone. Okay. She's responsible for that. She's also responsible for the fiber optic cable. Yes. You heard me straight. So, hey, give her a shout out because she is completely amazing. And without her, we wouldn't be having these little small computers, right? These little small devices that we have. I know my husband is loving her like off top because he's a gamer. And so in our home, like, it has to be fiber optic. That's the only option. Okay. So we give a shout out to Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson, American educator and scientist. Woo-hoo!
Absolutely. Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson. And I actually looked her up too, because this was actually the first time of me hearing of her. And I'm sure maybe I've heard of her before. It's just, with so much in my brain, I'm playing like, okay, I can't remember. But I'm really glad you brought her name up, because I had the opportunity to look into like, who is Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson? And like you stated, noted physicist and former head of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, NRC. And this is according to womenofthehall.org. So Dr. Jackson was elected a fellow of the American Physical Society for her work in the interaction of on liquid helium films, which surface, oh, these are some interesting words, excitations as a polaron problem. As the first American woman, shout out to her for definitely being the first Black American woman to serve on the NRC and the first woman and Black American to lead the NRC. Wow. Yeah, that's impressive. And so there's so much more other information about her. So for those who are not familiar, please, we encourage you, look into Dr. Shirley Ann Jackson, because she's definitely helped us out a lot. Like Cece said, we have fiber optic, right? And people can enjoy just the different luxuries that are day to day for us. So that is beautiful. Also, shout out to some of the other women in history that we've more than likely heard of, or maybe you've never heard of. So Sojourner Truth from 1797 through 1883, under Politics and Human Rights, she was a former enslaved woman, abolitionist, and advocate for women's rights. We also have, under Science and Medicine, Katherine Johnson from 1918 through 2020, NASA mathematician whose calculations helped launch astronauts into space. Wow, impressive. Yeah. We have arts and literature, Toni Morrison, Nobel Prize winning novelist who explored Black identity and culture from 1931 through 2019. That's when they lived. With sports, Billie Jean King, 1943 through present, tennis champion and advocate for gender equality in sports. And also activism and social change. We have Angela Davis, civil rights activist, scholar, and advocate for prison reform. Cece, anyone that you can think of other than Dr. Jackson that we should acknowledge today? And if not, that's fine, because I know there's so many. It's like, oh gosh.
There's so many names that we don't know that are out there. Of course, we know some of our top women, of course, in Black history, but just not Black history, but just American history, right? Universal history, right? Just women making changes across, the world. Your mom, my mom, right? Those are some names, right? Because your girl, we're here on the Oyendia TV, okay? Making some names, making some changes, making life happen. So to all of those people out there, where your name may not be in the lights and in the glam and all of that stuff, we want to salute you as a woman, right? Just for being a woman. It takes a lot to be a sister, to be an aunt, to be a grandmother, right? To be a mom, all of these things. Right. We salute you for all the women here in the entire universe, not just in America, but everywhere and abroad, because this show, right, is everywhere, right? It's international. Hey, baby. Yes. So we salute you.
Yeah, absolutely. Salute. Yes. Women's history. And I will say this. So in our brainstorming session, we are actually considering here at Oyendia TV making June the unofficial men's history. Yes. Men's history.
We're so crazy, right? The men are going to love us. They're going to love us.
Absolutely. And I get it, because, I did the research and I was thinking, I was like, why is it that we don't have really, like, we have women's history and we have all these different months focused on different topics and things, but why not men? And my search, which was interesting, came up that there's a lot of like men focused, like dates and different types of celebrations. And I'm like, okay, I see that, but we should still have a month dedicated to men. So it's okay. We here at Oyendia Got You Men, June is going to be the unofficial Men's History Month. So yes.
Bringing out the big guns. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're going to change. We're moving forward. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're going to get this on the map. Okay, y'all. Like, there's going to be a whole calendar, right? Congress is, everybody's going to announce it, right? It's going to be out there. Okay? We're going to make this happen. We're going to be advocating for you.
Right. Yes. And guess what? You can say that you heard it here first on Oyandia TV. Mark our calendars today. You heard it here first. Yes. 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 All right. Pivoting over to travel. So the other day I came across an interesting post where it's stating that individuals would need, in addition to a passport, a travel visa and to be registered to travel into Mexico. What are your thoughts about that? That's pretty interesting.
When I read it and I was looking at it, because, I used to live in California, San Diego. So we were always in Mexico all the time. Hop the trolley, head down, party, right, hop back on and cross on back over. And it was a done deal. Didn't need anything, good life, good living. And so now with all these other mandates, they say this has been, the standard, so to speak. But I believe, this is just a girl thinking out loud, right? I believe that this is just kind of a clapback, okay, to the U.S., right? Because you know that the tariffs and all these things are going on with President Trump, and everybody's getting attacked, right? And so I just think that they're just trying to make life a little bit hard for Americans at this point. I heard that there was or even read in the article that there was like a 3 to 4 hour wait, right, for people going in, and then sometimes even longer. And so this is really not something that is actually needed. I just believe it's a clapback to say, hey, and so they're kind of sticking it to the American people, but I don't think it's going to last very long. I think it's going to go back to how it's always been. And this is just a little pivot in the road, and we're going to be okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And hearing you say that, to me, that makes logical sense. It makes sense that it would be a clapback, right? They're feeling some type of way towards us, and they're just trying to find ways to make us feel it, right? And so it's interesting because also for those who are thinking of traveling to Mexico, please be prepared. Don't get caught off guard. Bring your travel visa, bring your passport, and also go on the website. It's called Multiple Immigration Form, FMM, presented at the checkpoint. And so that way you have your documentation, but definitely do your homework, do your due diligence and prep before your trip, because it's a very uncomfortable situation to be in when you're caught off guard and you don't have the right documentation. And now you're delayed with time, especially if you have an agenda that you're trying to follow. So just be mindful of that. That's definitely my food for thought that I would have you consider. Cece, do you have anything additional to share with regard to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I say bring a book. I'm all about making it happen, right? I'm seeing the action. It's like, let's get her done. So if I got to sit somewhere and wait, or stand, whatever the case is, right? I'm going to be bringing extra work, so I'm not wasting my time. So this could be a great time for you all to maybe start a new audio book, maybe read the Bible, right? Bring a book to read, whatever it is. Do Duolingo, right? We're doing the Duolingo. You too do Duolingo, right? But just get it in while you wait. So just make it worth your while. Bring some food, bring some snacks, bring some water, whatever to stay hydrated, because it is warming up. Spring is like, is right around the corner. So just make sure you're prepared in that way. And I think you'll be fine. This isn't going to last long. Mark our words. I don't believe this is going to last very long.
Yeah, I agree. But definitely good food for thought for sure. Well, we have an amazing special guest. Before we pivot over to our guest who's patiently waiting for us, any other topics that I want to bring up today and talk about, Cece, that I may not be thinking about?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked. Let me just put on my handy dandy spectacles, okay? Absolutely. So my husband, just before we got on, he sent me this from the New York Post, and this was a valedictorian. So I'm like, this is really great. This is a valedictorian, but the title says here, it says, student who says she is illiterate despite graduating with honors. She sues the Connecticut school district. And so this kid, she's a 19-year-old. She said she spent 12 years in the Hartford public district. And she said that she just really had a lot of issues with her letter sounds and number sounds. Her name is Alicia Ortiz. She's from Puerto Rico. And so she is suing them because she said that she can't basically read for the most part. And she said that, so she's suing right here it says Ortiz is suing the Hartford Board of Education and the city of Hartford and her special education case manager. So she said in school she was kind of deemed as a bad student because she really didn't speak the English language. And her mom either, she didn't really speak it, but she was trying to help her and stuff like that. But she says, yeah, she doesn't know. So I'm like, how is this possible? How can we, have children that are graduating with honors and all of these things, and they can barely spell, read, or write. And the fact that this 19-year-old is now going to sue, right, the state of Connecticut, this is a big deal. Not only that, but in Baltimore, they were saying that there were like 20 different schools that were there where the children are testing and they are failing like basic math. And these are like high schoolers and things of that nature. So this is an epidemic in our country, I believe. It's been around for quite some time. I know Trump is saying, hey, do away with the Board of Education. And my thing is, I had mixed feelings about that, but I'm like, somebody's dropped the ball along the way. And so it definitely needs to have an eye, a very close eye in on to see what's actually taking place in these places, right? To make sure that our children are being educated. Look, our kids are in school basically for a full work day. And in that full workday, those 7-8 hours that they're in school, they should be learning something. But we always have to remember, even as parents, it's not the school's total responsibility to educate our children. It starts with us. So we have to continue, make sure we're following up to make sure that our children are, understanding everything that's out there. And we just got to be very vigilant on that. I know a lot of my teachers for my kiddo, my 8-year-old at least, they were like, man, he's really tired, from all the schoolwork. She goes, but we don't really give that much homework. I actually didn't really give any homework at all. So I said, no, I know you don't give homework, but I have homework for my kid. Like there are things that he has to do. Right. There's things that he has. So we follow up on that. Always prepare him to be ready for the next grade level. So right now he's in 2nd grade, but I'm already preparing him for 3rd and 4th grade. So that way he's ready and he's ahead of the game. And that's our job. That's our commitment, right? To partner along the schools, with the schools and also with the teachers to be able to try to make their job a little bit easier. Teachers' jobs are so tough. They're so hard. And the fact that now this graduate student who's now 19 is suing this entire state, that's a problem.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up because I agree with you wholeheartedly. Education is definitely just our country's suffering from that. And it's really, really sad and heartbreaking. And as I was listening to you, I was curious to understand, because the Department of Education and everything that they're dealing with, what happens to the level of education. And so it's interesting to know that the power would shift from a federal level to a state and local government level, which means that the educational policies and funding would likely be controlled at that state level instead of it being current, how it is currently with federal regulations, et cetera. It'll be state that would be managing the local education or state education. States with strong education systems and funding might maintain quality education, while others with fewer resources could struggle. And so we already are experiencing the education inequity. I can only imagine what would happen from there. And so with that also in mind, I love that you have those extra tasks and homeworks and chores that you're showing your child. That's important. That is our responsibility as parents, in my opinion, to help guide them, to help them grow, develop. Please make sure that you're not putting your kid in front of a cell phone or in front of a game or in front of a TV watching a series. Like that's not really helping them out. That's not really stimulating them or helping them grow to become bigger and better. So yeah, the fact that you do that with your child, I love it. I salute you. And I'm definitely going to follow that. I'm going to follow suit as my child continues to grow up on the same thing you're doing, CZ. And like, hey, this is what we're going to focus on today and make sure that we get it done. Because I know that's my role. That's as a parent, that is our role. We're trying to make sure that whenever it is our time for us to no longer be here, that we've done a good enough job where they self-sustain and they can continue to grow and prosper as beautiful humans. So, yes. Wow. But I wish that young lady the best. I'm trying just to understand logically, like how she was able to pass all these grades, which it sounds like somebody just skipped her just to kind of get her as a number out of the way, right? And then also, if she can't read and she's not fully literate, then was it audiobooks? Was somebody reading to her? Like I have so many questions popping up in my head, like how did this happen?
There's so many questions, and you're absolutely right. Me, just being a substitute teacher, because I'm a helicopter mom. I think I shared that on one of the other shows. And so now my kid is in the school. I'm like, I gotta know who's around my kid. So hey, sign me up to do this whole substitute thing. And I saw firsthand, eyes glued to looking at this thing, is that the teachers do, like, you just see them kind of just passing kids through. And it breaks my heart because I'm like, this can't be. They get so it's really hard, depending too, like, on how many children are in the classroom. So like at our old school, there was like 27 like little people, kindergartners, first graders. Like, that's too many kids. Like, sometimes it was more than that. And all of these different little personalities, right? And this, for a lot of them, is sometimes their first time being in a group that big. And so they kind of get, not even to say lost in the sauce, but teachers become so overwhelmed because they're trying to handle behavioral issues, right? They're trying to handle a lot of different mental issues, because a lot of these kids are on different medications for whatever diagnosis, right? And so it's hard to teach sometimes. Even for me, I've experienced, trying to keep the kiddos a little quiet. I know you can't sit in the classroom and be quiet all day, but when there's someone disruptive or just talking going on, and you're just trying to rein it in to get them all kind of quiet so you can teach, that takes away time in the lesson. And sometimes you don't get through all of your stuff. And though you have this whole curriculum that's supposed to be checking off the boxes, it's like I barely got one item on the checklist and it was only halfway done. So I see it. And a lot of teachers here in the state of North Carolina, they don't necessarily have to have, certifications, right? Not all the teachers at my kids' school are certified teachers, right? They give them some time to get it, but they're just, I'm not going to say they're hiring Joe Schmoes off the street, but you're having people just come in. They may have no teaching background whatsoever. So sometimes I see it like as a babysitting kind of thing. And so with that school, we kind of moved away from that, right? And so we're in a different institution, and, just keeping my ear to the ground and eyes for it, just to make sure that's not happening here. But it is very difficult for teachers. And I would, behoove parents to go out to the schools, volunteer, sit in the classrooms, and see how difficult it is for these teachers to try to educate your children. And you'll find very, very quickly that you have to have a lot of patience, and you have to have a lot of humility, and not everybody's cut out for it.
Right. Yes. You are absolutely correct and true. Speaking nothing but truth. I honestly, Cece, still remember when I was in elementary school. I remember back to when I was in K4, and the kids and how they acted and their demeanor. And I remember two specific little boys that the way they dressed and their demeanor, they always said that they were gangbangers. And the reason why is because that's what they said at home. Right. And so with that, it was really interesting at that early age to be, one, exposed to that, and two, to try to understand, like, what is a gangbanger? I don't know. I'm 4 at this point, right? But then it's fast forwarding to like now and today, which is what Oyandia is now and today. Oyandia TV, hey. But it's really heartbreaking to see that because they were exposed to that environment at an early age. One of them is currently locked up in jail. The other one ended up being America's Most Wanted and was demised by the U.S. Marshals. Right.
Wow.
I know. And so with mind, I say this to say that, going back to what you were saying, teaching our kids is not easy because everyone's coming from different types of backgrounds. Their home environments are different. The way that they are being raised, reprimanded, what have you, rewarded, just different things. It's different, and it becomes challenging. And then when you're putting your child into those different elements, these are the things they're going to be exposed to. It is tough. It's tough. But yeah. Well,
it's going to be, I think, pivoting to the next guest, like you said, because he is an educator as well. Let you the whole introduction, but he'll be able to get into this a whole lot more because he actually works with a lot of different athletes and students and things of that nature. So we'll be able to pick his brain. But go for it. Let's introduce him. Let's get him on. We're excited.
Yes, I am excited to pick his brain because I would love some answers, like, based on his experience. How and why does he see this happening? And if there's anything that we can do and that our viewers and listeners can do to help improve that or change it for the better, right? All right. So let me introduce our amazing guest that we have. So this amazing guest is a globally respected leadership coach, author, educator, and a veteran with over 40 years of dedicated service to social impact, civic engagement, and youth empowerment. He was born and raised in New Britain, Connecticut. And this doctor, because he is a doctor, and I'm purposely not telling you his name until the end, has dedicated his career to advancing education and leadership development. He's worked with extensive schools between K through 12 schools, taught at a collegiate level, and founded the, well, I guess you're going to know his name now, Rory T. Edwards Group. Yeah, right. A platform for empowering leaders and communities. As president of the New Britain NAACP for 11 years, Dr. Edwards championed youth mentorship, led policy advocacy efforts, and represented Connecticut at the U.S. Congress Summit on policy-based dialogue for African American leaders. During President Obama's administration, Dr. Edwards, once a man, twice a child Academy earned him the opportunity to collaborate with developers of My Brother's Keeper initiative. He also played a pivotal role in establishing charter schools across 6 states, including co-founding the Cross-Cultural Academy of Arts and Technology Charter School in Hartford, Connecticut. His contributions to the nationally recognized Amistad Academy, praised by the U.S. Secretary of Education, Rod Paige, further reflect his commitment to educational excellence. Yes, I love it. A recognized figure in athletics and academia, Dr. Edwards has advised professional athletes, authored several books, including The Man That's Missing in Me. That sounds interesting. I'm curious to know about that book too. His current projects focus on racial unity, support systems, and social change, underscoring his enduring dedication to building resilient communities and empowering future leaders. So without further ado, we welcome with warm welcome to Dr. Rory T. Edwards. Welcome to Hoy en Día TV.
Thank you. Buenas noches, señora. Sí, my español is.
Está practicando.
Un poquito. I mean, but I picked the right words to know what to say. But thank you very much for having me. You know, I was sitting over here and I was saying, look, I got to get it right. Let me get it right. I said, buenas noches, señora. See? I said, yeah.
Amazing. You have a very impressive resume, bio, what have you. Wow, I'm impressed, and I salute you. And I just have so many questions flowing through my head. But the first one that I would love to start off with is, with all that I just read to the audience and listeners, who would you say Dr. Rory T. Edwards is? What is the foundation of Dr. Edwards?
I would say the foundation is my family. I come from, my grandmother was a very strong advocate for the development and the rights of individuals who didn't have a voice. My parents, both my father, who is no longer with us, and my mother, who's still with us, always instilled in us that to have a voice, no matter what the situation you were in, make sure that your voice sort of paralleled how you felt about things. Don't speak out of anger, speak out of facts. Because one thing people can't do is they can't deny the facts, right? And one of the things that I knew from an early stage in my life is that Black males, and that's why I've worked with them so long, is that Black males are always looked at upon as being angry. And everything that comes out their mouth is based on anger. But how do you develop anger? You develop anger by what people have been exposed to. Just like you spoke about the 2 young men being gangbangers. What have they been exposed to? What have they been privy to? What have they been respected for? And I've always been that person that if I'm going to say something, you're going to have to combat me on the facts. I'm not going to be speaking from emotions. I'm going to have the facts, and I'm going to speak to you based on what you see. To challenge someone, you don't challenge them from your standpoint. You challenge them from what their standpoint is, right? And so that's how I usually address things. I would say, well, isn't this what you say? Or isn't this what your foundation is? And so I give it to them and make them now regurgitate what they believe, and justify what that means. And how do you justify it? Does everybody have to abide by this, or is there certain individuals who don't have to abide by this, and certain individuals who have to abide by this? So if we're going to say, make a blanket statement, let's find out who is this information for, and who does this information is it altered for? So that's always been my stance.
Awesome.
And I've been respectfully told to leave some rooms too based on it.
Uh-oh. I'm like, you got to get up out of here. Okay, you doing too much. Yeah, you doing too much with the facts. We just trying to do with the emotion over here.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
I like that you said that. Yeah, you're emotional, and typically that's where a lot of human beings they operate from. They operate from a space of emotions, of feelings, and you should never do that, right? So if you don't know now, you know you should never do that, because those emotions and those feelings, right, they can change like the wind. But if you have the hard facts, right, you gotta bring some other factual data to be able to combat that. And if you can, then you're just spouting off a whole bunch of nonsense, really. And we don't need to hear the rah-rah. Give me the facts, right? Don't try to, sway me one way or the next. Just let me look at the facts, see what it is, and then let me make, an executive, right, decision to be able to speak to that and not come from a place of emotion. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you developed your passion from seeing and being inspired by your grandmother. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. At what point in your life did you realize that this was your calling, that you really had that true passion to help others, to educate? Because like Cece was saying, this is not an easy road for educators. It's a very, very challenging and difficult, and many times people feel it is unrewarding because they have this drive and passion to want to do better, but there are barriers that continue to take place. So at what point in your life did you realize, this is my calling and I want to do something different with regards to making that positive change?
I would probably say there's a story I share. I was about 12 years old, and so I was born and even though it says I was born in New Britain, Connecticut, I spent most of my, maturation years in Connecticut. But I was born in New Jersey, and I used to go back to Orange, New Jersey every year. And one year I was about 12, and in the neighborhood, they put up all these signs about people coming to join the Panthers, the Black Panthers. And I was like, oh, I'm going. And I told my aunt, I said, I'm going down here to the pool hall to see what they're talking about. And she said, you better not. And I said, okay. And so, when somebody tells you better not as a boy, what do? You go, right? So you go. I'm going to take the consequences later, but I'm going. And so there were all these men in the room and women, and everybody was in the pool hall, and they were talking, and they were trying to solicit individuals to join. And they asked for any volunteers, and nobody raised their hand. None of the guys raised their hand. And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the fight for our equality. This is the fight for us as men to make changes. And I'm saying as men, and I'm 12. So I navigated through the audience, and I get up to the front, and I said, sir, I'm ready. I'm raising my hand, I'm ready. And I remember this gentleman doesn't have a name. I don't know his name. I wouldn't know him if he was still alive today. And I said, I'm ready to join and give my all for this cause. And he said, young brother, he says, what I need for you to do is I need for you to become educated. I need for you to be able to carry this message on to the next generation. He says, you're not ready for the front lines right now. He says, but you are in a position to where you can be filled with the knowledge and the understanding of how we navigate through this process. And that's what I need you for. And from that point on, for me, it was like, there's no other answer for me, or no other destiny for me, but to be that person who, who is going to stand on the foundation of truth, stand on the foundation that there's no man on this earth that is better than me, and it's definitely not based on the pigmentation. It's on the qualifications, right? And that's how and CC, dear friend of mine, she'll tell you, I don't disrespect people, but I'm not going to be disrespected by you. And all we're going to do is we're going to stand on the foundation of who's qualified to make those statements. And if you're not qualified to make those statements, then you don't need to be making them, right? If you believe that because you're in a certain position that you're supposed to be the authority or the voice, then that's not respectable to me. You're going to have to prove to me, based on your merits, based on your portfolio, based on your action, that you're worthy of being at the head of this conversation, at the head of this whole situation that we are about to to move us forward in our agenda. So that's what was for me at that particular time. And I can say from there, 12 years old, I've been on this journey for a few days. I'm about 13 or 14, but I've been on this journey for a few days.
Indeed. And I love that, because as that 12-year-old boy, you really took that to heart when that gentleman said, your education, and you did that. You have like 400 or 500 doctorate degrees right now. Keep on though, in every field. Okay. No, but I love it, because you're moving up. There you go, right. That's what I'm talking about. But I love that as a 12-year-old young man, right, boy, and there was another older man, pouring into you, and you took that to heart, and you said, I'm going to help this cause. And you've done that, and that's so amazing that you've done that time and time again. And not only that, but Roy, you pour back into other young men, right? So I know that you work with sports, like even you, like you're well vested in sports. Your brother, you were telling me about some of the things that you all had achieved. Talk a little bit about that, and then how you are actually helping now, the youth and the young men in college and in the collegiate area.
Well, with that particular initiative, one of the things that I realized a long time ago, and I've worked with my cousin in Atlanta in an organization called Georgia Training Alliance, and he brought me in to help him in the business, but he was in the business of training young men for the NFL Combine or for the NFL Pro Day. And that's for college athletes who have aspirations of going to the NFL to pursue their dream of playing professional football. And one day I was just listening in the room, and I saw that the men were on a scale. They were highly successful in their physique, in their warrior armor, but in their matriculation voice, they were very passive. So the scale was totally unbalanced. And I'm like, so I told my cousin, I said, the next day, could I sit down and talk to him? And he said, yeah, go ahead, doc. And so I went and I talked to him, and I explained to them that at this particular stage in your life, you can't allow people to speak for you. Because what happens when people start to speak for you, their agenda becomes prevalent through your work, right? So it's almost like somebody, you walk into somewhere and somebody speaks for you. Somebody asks you a question, could I help you? And then somebody jumps in and says, well, all he needs or all she needs is, well, no, let me speak. I'm going to tell them what I need. I don't need you to speak for me. But that's what a lot of athletes, they're at the crossroads when they finish college, or they're either going into the pros or they're going into some other professional side of life. That's what they need. And I found that to be very disturbing, because we look at these individuals as our voices in the community, but they are socially way down here and emotionally way down here, because everything that they've accomplished has been monitored, has been done for by somebody else. And so many of our young men emotionally don't make it. And the biggest thing is that people don't realize the number. They see the individuals who are playing. But when you take football, for instance, and you said that I'm an author of books. I wrote one of my books is titled So You Want to Be a Professional Athlete. And it talks about the numbers. And if you talk about football, there's 19,000. So I'm going to say that again, 19,000 young men who are eligible for the NFL draft every year, which is coming up in 2 months, next month, April, actually. There's going to be 19,000 individuals eligible. There's 354 who are drafted, and there's about another 150 who may become camp bodies or may play in Canada or become a reserve on a team. So let's just round the number off to 500, right? There's 500 who will make the ranks of professional football players. That means there's 18,500 young men every year who don't fulfill that dream. And so they've been told their whole life that they are going to play at the professional level. What do you do? And CC and I are psychologists. What does that do to someone's mental stability who's been told their entire life that you're going to play at this level? And that dream is deferred. What happens to them? And they become citizens that you and I have to then take care of. They become fathers. They become those individuals who are now still trying to be recognized in the light that they were recognized throughout their college career, through a high school career. And they don't have the tools to stand on a very solid foundation because everything in their life has been done for them. So that is some scary stuff if you think about the numbers. So this year, there will be 18,500 young men who will have their dream deferred of playing professional football. And just think about, we have all the other sports, soccer, we have basketball, we have baseball, we have, track and field, dreams deferred going to the Olympics, which is every 4 years. So just take that, for instance, right? You have individuals who start college. Their dream is to run track and field. And at the end of the 4 years, what if you're not on an Olympic year? What if you're 2 years in, 2 years out? You still have 2 more years to hone your craft to become an Olympian. And what happens if you pull a hamstring or something in a race? All of that work is gone to the side. So it's very difficult for athletes, and people don't realize what athletes mentally have to endure during that process to become viable and valuable citizens. And it's that's why I've worked so relentlessly with young men, is because we expect them to be stellar warriors. But do you understand what warriors are built for? Warriors are built for war. Warriors aren't built to be carrying respected, nurturing individuals. And we put them into situations. CC and I both are veterans, and how many times you come from a war zone and nobody talks to you about what that instilled, what happened? How do you debrief me from coming back from a war zone? I can't be the person that you expected me to be in that war zone. And how do I come back, and now how do I engage in citizenship? How do I go back to being an active citizen when you told me to be a warrior in another individual's environment? So it's very difficult. And I just try to do this. I know we're in Women's History Month, but I'm going to say this to women. Listen, give your man a hug. Your man needs a hug because you don't understand the shoes he's walking in every day, especially our men of melanated skin. You don't understand the shoes they're walking in every day, honestly.
Wow.
Powerful.
Yeah, Dr. Edwards, you said a lot there, and my wheels are spinning with like all these questions, because it's one of those things where it's like I'm listening to you, and the thought that comes to mind is, as parents, going back to being, the parent that I shared earlier, the conversation, help your child not to put all their eggs in one basket, especially with what Dr. Edwards just said. If they're only focused and they have that tunnel vision on sports, and then boop, their little bubble gets busted because they're not making it to the NFL, because there's only, what's the number, 500?
No, there's about 500 total. It's 354 that are drafted on draft. There's 3 days of draft. So there's only 500 total out of 19,000, excuse me.
food for thought. So thank you for reiterating those numbers. Please encourage your children, son or daughter, to do something different in addition to sports, but have other ideas like creating a business. Maybe this is an opportunity, if they're so good at what they're doing with sports, open up a business that focuses on that specific sport, or creating their own little league. I mean, there's many other opportunities that could arise from this, but not allowing them to turn into that statistic that Dr. Edwards just shared with us. That's heartbreaking. And gosh.
Absolutely. Yeah, the work that you're doing, we commend it. It's very important. And these young men, they need to know the other side of the coin. When you're 30 and an athlete, you're considered like geriatric, right? 30 is not old, okay? But you're kind of washed up. Right, and God forbid if you make it to 40, like how many 40-year-olds out there do we have? You know what I'm saying? I was just I don't really do sports or anything, but I know they were talking about LeBron James and stuff like that, and just saying like, some of the records that he's broken and just how great he is. And he is he's considered geriatric right now, but they're still out there making those moves. So it's great that people like you take another interest to show them the other side of the coin, because we do know, and I don't have the stats on this. This is probably something, and you may know, Dr. Edwards, that when these athletes, right, they make all this money. A lot of them end up basically broke because they don't know how to manage, right, with people stealing from them. Some of them, even they're in college, they don't even, like the young lady, that's suing the state of Connecticut. They don't even know how to count. Like, you got to know how to do basic math. Oprah Winfrey once said, she goes, you have to sign your own checks because people will rip you off. We know that Angie Stone just passed, and she was talking about how the industry just rips people off and stuff, and she's fighting to get what she's due. And we know this, right? And so for you to be out there telling them like this, have walked, right, a mile in their shoes, because you too were an athlete, like, we commend you. We really, really commend you. And going into the locker rooms, going into the colleges, I've seen you out there pounding the pavement, making the phone calls, connecting with people. Even we were at residency together, and this man was connecting with the athletic directors there at the college, and we're supposed to be there doing our school stuff, but that's his passion. That's what he makes it happen. And so I commend you on that, and I salute you one vet to another, right? Just thanking you for doing that, taking the time to do that.
Dr. Edwards, I would love to know more about the Once a Man, Twice a Child Academy that earned the opportunity to collaborate with the developers of the My Brother's Keeper initiative. Tell us more about that. I'm curious to know.
Well, that came out of the wisdom of my grandmother. She told me that as humans, and it goes the same way. It's a once a man, twice a child, because she says once you start, when you're born, you're a child, and someone has to take care of you until you're able to take care of yourself. And during that taking care of yourself period, you are a man or a woman, and you have to develop what will happen to you in your later years. Have you developed something that people will respect you, because you will become a child in a childhood phase again before you transition. And so how you treat people in that adult phase will then dictate how many people treat you well in your pre-transition, right? Because that's your twice a child lifestyle. And so what I tried to do is it's funny because we're talking about Connecticut, and I really want to speak about that young lady in Hartford, and I that's what my charter school was in Hartford, Connecticut. So I was a principal in New Haven, Connecticut. So I definitely want to share that. But so with the Once a Man, Twice a Child, I saw the young African American and Latino males in New Britain, Connecticut, who were always looked upon as the biggest challenge. And so I tell people, well, if it's the biggest challenge, how do you take your greatest investment, which we know in most cases in this country is financial stability, and put it towards designing something that's going to equal the playing field for these individuals. And then you have to tell me, why are they your greatest challenge? And so, I was at school board meetings, and I was very good friends with the superintendent and the assistant superintendent and many teachers. And I talked during that particular time. And I said, they're not the greatest challenge. They are they are, and I'm going to try to say this as politically correct as I possibly can. They are something that you aspire to be, but don't want to be. It's like having a boyfriend that your parents don't know about, and you sneak out to him, and you're hiding with him in the dugout. But you love him to death, but you're not going to be seen with him, right? Black males in this world are what everybody aspires to be and want to be with, and everybody loves the creativity that they bring, the swag that they bring, the way they talk, the way they walk. Because in my assessment, and this is no disrespect to any other person, we are the creation of the Creator. And so we are the original man, but we've been denoted, to being the lesser man. And so our boys are being ostracized because they don't have a voice. They don't have people standing up for them. So what they do is they have to become the envy of those men who are in power. And so how do you take power away from somebody? You take power away from them by showing others that they are not who you believe they are, right? So my whole purpose of the Once a Man, Twice a Child was to put these young black men, young boys back into power, and not into physical power, but into intellectual, spiritual, emotional, social, holistic power. That's what my whole purpose was, to put them back, to let them know that they are the creation of the Creator, and that nobody can make you who you are except your own choices, right? I tell people in life, there's only two choices that you don't have an option to make, and that's who you're born to and the day you leave. Everything in between it is your legacy, and your choices that you make determine who you become when your last days and your eulogy is read, right? And so these young men, this is what the purpose of that school was. The purpose of that school was to develop the emotional resiliency in these young men, so that when they walk like kings. When they talk like kings. When people spoke to them, they looked at them as kings. I said, you are nothing but a king in training. And so what I did is I brought in men who also believed they were kings. And I said, if you don't teach them to be a king, then you got to go, because we're not teaching them to be anything else but kings. And so the great thing about that, I did that program. It was under the auspices of the NAACP. I was president. We started for 11 years, and we started in our small office in the NAACP office. We grew to a local middle school. And the great thing about it is that I had a wonderful martial arts instructor who's no longer with us. But that was the opening activity for the day. We taught them discipline. It's not about how strong you are and how many people you can bully, but it's about being confident in your ability, right? And so the lesson during the day was also the lesson that was also ingrained during the educational stuff. And what we did is we also practiced one of the things that, I'm going to talk about different people. We always believed that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that every black man and black woman and melanated person needs to have a thesaurus in their repertoire and a dictionary. Because if you don't understand the language for which you are operating in, then you will always be second class. And so that was the thing. Every day what we did is we gave them an opportunity. We gave them 15, 20 words a day. And you had to define those words. And then you went to the thesauruses. That's how you started. You went to the thesauruses and you took the definition of those words and you made sentences relevant to your agenda, what that meant, what you were going to be going forward in life. And so the great thing that I can say, I just talked to one of the young men the other day, and he's doing so amazing. He started his own clothing line in Tallahassee, Florida, and he was a little scrawny kid, and now he's buffed. I said, look at you. I said, you need to start a training thing. And he said, look at you, you're still teaching. I said, I'm always going to teach. I'm going to teach until I transition. But that's what that was really about. And then we ended up collaborating with the local college, Central Connecticut State University, and the Africana Cultural Center. And they gave us an opportunity to put the kids on the college campus. And so we went to the college campus, and it grew from 12 kids to eventually probably like about 70 kids. And then we opened up the doors to not just African American and Latino males. We offered it to every male. And the reason why is because I thought that, okay, who are these men going to work for? Maybe they're going to work for white men. They're maybe going to work for Asian men. They may work for Indian men. But if we can all grow as men, then we don't take the identity of race and put into it. We take the identity of what I have to offer, and that's what's now you see me for what I can bring to you intellectually, right? And not what the perception is, because we know sometimes the perception is that Black men come to situations and they're evil and they're mad and they're angry and they want to just tell you off, and what they're going to do is take your pocketbook and they want to rob you. But you see me coming, you don't realize. I tell people when I come like the three kings. I don't come asking you for anything. I come bearing gifts. And that's what I wanted these young men to do, is in their walk in life. I want people to see you as bearing gifts, not as trying to rob the Christmas tree. And I can say all the ones that I've seen, they are doing wonderful. They are doing amazing. So I'm sorry for talking so much. You all are tapping into part of my growth and my spirit. So I love it. I love it. You gave me this opportunity. Thank you.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would love to have you back on in June for our unofficial Men's History Month. So hopefully, Cece, you and Dr. Edwards can coordinate that, because you are just dropping amazing, just food for thought. I love it. Like, this is making my heart warm and fuzzy. And I'm just so honored to have you, Cece. Thank you for making this connection, because this is exactly what our people need to hear, especially our men. I'm a boy mom.
Okay.
And Cece, I know you're a boy mom too. And so
all three.
Plenty of other boy moms and fathers out here. So these are definitely things that our people need to hear, regardless of and then this impacts every race and nationality that has a male or a son in their life, right? And so this is very impressive, and wow, yes.
Yeah.
I love that thing what you said about the three kings. Like, you come bearing gifts. Like, I love just that's a whole paradigm shift, right? That's a whole paradigm shift. Get into the mindset of we're coming to bring something to the table. That's so good. That's so good.
And I lead with that in business conversations. When people say, "Tell me about yourself," I say, "What do you know about the three kings?" And they say, well, they came, and, you may get a devout Christian who sits up there and they tell you the whole story of what the three kings brought to the manger. And I say, okay, I didn't have to tell you, you just told me about me. That's what I do. I come bearing gifts. I don't come asking you for something. I don't come begging you for a job. I come telling you how I am going to enhance your job. Right? And some people can't take that. Because they're intimidated because they didn't do their work, right? When I come to the situation, everything I come to, I never come with a losing mentality. I say I come either I win or I learn, because if I have to meet you again, what I learned in that last encounter is going to make me a winner.
That's right. Every day,
never
all day.
Never am I gonna lose.
I love it. Yep. Yeah, I love it. That's good.
That is good. Yes, he had me blown.
I feel like I need to pass around an offer plate right now. We need to take. Can't wait to take an offering. Okay.
But my cash app is
that part. So I will say this, because we are going to have you back in for Men's History. I was going to ask you about the author, the book that you wrote, The Man That's Missing. But I actually want to leave that for like a cliffhanger so that people can tune back in June when you come and visit us again. Hopefully, right? You'll be available, and that way people can hear that food for thought for your book, and definitely promote it now also, so that people are encouraged to purchase it, to read it now, and absorb the knowledge that you share in it.
Well, the great thing about that is I have 12 books, right?
Woo!
Yeah, so if you go to my website, which is www.rorytedwards.com, I have 12 books, and they're all written basically for either self-help
Mhm.
or they're written from the athletic perspective in helping individuals to understand what that process looks like. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but this is what the man that's missing in me looks like.
Ah,
See, that's
yes.
what it is right here. So reason why I'm sitting here next to me because I've got to mail off this to a gentleman who I met yesterday. But definitely, I have 12. I have the first one, like I said, and I'll go real quick. Is So you want to be a professional athlete, and then I put together a workbook for that. So it's also core curriculum. It's core curriculum equivalent, so you can navigate that book through also teaching it in school. I have a workbook that says, so you want to be a Division I college athlete. It takes people and parents through from grade 7 all the way up to graduation, what conversations to have, how to be eligible for the NC2A, what core classes do you need to take, how to take the SATs, how parents have interviews with college coaches and recruiters, how to choose a college for your child. And then I have 2 other books that are called The 13 Commandments of Rory T. Edwards. And it's really just a book that gives you direction. I say, I don't want to say commandments because people get, oh, you think you God. I said, I am God because he's in me. So God gave me this message. So thank you very much. Thank you. And please and thank you. And then I have one that's called The Power to the P. It's 10 synergistic steps that take you through a blueprint of life, but all words begin with P. And then I have gratitude, which is really about how to enjoy your life after the age of 50. What you need to do after the age of 50. And then I have another one that's called The Miseducation of Student Athletes. And Cece knows about that because it's really my dissertation. So it's really, and I put that together and it's also culminating in parallel with my dissertation. I have The Man That's Missing in Me. I have another one I think is for women, which is called Raising Hope. And Raising Hope is a program that I have for mothers, single mothers who are raising sons. Even if you have a husband in the house or a man in the house, it's still about giving you the understanding of how you raise your son, because we do know that single households are more prevalent than they were when I came up. And there's a lot of mothers who are raising sons. As I do the athletic stuff, I see mothers at all these events. I see very seldom do I see fathers. And so it gives you an understanding of how you raise your son to be a king, even though you can't raise him to be a man, but you can guide him towards men, real men that want the best for your son and not want to be in your household. Does that make sense? I'm trying to do that politically correct. And then I also have another one that is titled, my newest book coming out is entitled, If America Loved Me the Same Way I Loved It from a Black Man's Eyes. And that's really intense. And then I have one that's called The Heart Leadership. So it's different ways of leadership, holistic, resiliency. It's just the heart letters are all different ways that we engage with leadership. And I know I probably missed a few. That's nowhere near 12, but I have
yeah, you're doing
12.
big. You're doing
12.
it big.
And the Creator's blessed me to still write. So when he stops it, I'm gonna stop writing.
Yeah, that's right.
Like
You
that.
just keep writing till the wheels fall off. That's what I'm talking about.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I look forward to you. Thank you. God willing, I'm here. I'll definitely be here.
Yes, we would love to kick off the unofficial Men's History Month for Oyendia TV, bringing you back on because you are just a wealth of knowledge and just amazing things that you're doing. And I just have, even like listening to you now, like a gazillion questions ran through my head, but I have to pause it and write it down so that I can ask them for the future.
Right.
But overall, so we're going to definitely pivot over to our last minute word segment where we allow you and myself and Cece the opportunity to just share last minute words or quote, food for thought, how they can find you on social media or your website, etc. So without further ado, if you would do us the honors, Dr. Edwards, tell us any last minute words that you want to share, where they can purchase your books. And what's next also? What can people expect next?
Well, I would say you can find me on all social media platforms. And one thing is, if you see my name on the bottom of the screen, if you know how to type in Rory T. Edwards or Dr. Rory T. Edwards, you're going to find me. Everything I do is I stand on my name. So I'm not hard to find. I don't have different handles. Every social media platform is my name, Rory T. Edwards. You can find my book on books and my website on www.rorytedwards.com. The things that I would like to leave you with is I really would have liked to talk about the young lady graduating out of the school system in Hartford, Connecticut. But I want to say there's two things that need to be instilled in as we talk about schooling going forward. It's how you design a culture of learning versus a culture that invites the climate that has been designed outside to dictate how the day of the school operates. One of the things that I was very well known for in being the principal of the Amistad Academy in New Haven was my school culture. I didn't allow any negative or toxic behaviors to enter the school building because you were there to learn. And you were there to learn not only the educational information, but how to advance to the next phase of your life and how you develop skills that will give you an opportunity to be successful in life once you left middle school, high school, college, or wherever. So that was what I just want to share that real quick. And I know the school system very well that the young lady is talking about. But I would just like to say that I think that all of us are giving, each day we're giving the breath to be alive, that we have to make an impact on whatever our purpose is. And we need to find our purpose. We need to celebrate our purpose. And we don't need to be jealous of somebody else's purpose because it's something that looks, that's glittering right now, because everything that glitters is not gold. And everything that's gold is not for you, right? And so I tell people to find your purpose, live in your purpose, but definitely give back, right? Because the way the universe operates, if the energy that we receive and the vibrations that we operate under and the rhythm that we navigate through is what the Creator designed us to be. And so it's also a very important opportunity for us to design a legacy that people will talk about you for the remainder of your existence and beyond, because you gave back more than you expected people to give you. And that's how I operate every day. That's how I live. So I say thank you very much for this opportunity. And I was going to look at my Espanol and tell you all thank you very much in Spanish, but I know gracias, señoras. But
hey. Well, Dr. Edwards, I know you mentioned to share a little bit about how you felt about the young lady in Hartford, Connecticut. So we have extra few more minutes. Go for it. I mean, I definitely would love to hear. Cece, are you're good with that? Okay, right? Or beautiful. So yes, please share your food for thought, because I'm curious about this too.
I'm going to make it short. One thing that I do know is SEL. Students are put into a different category, and they can go through school from elementary all the way up to high school to 12th grade in that particular class, Spanish speaking class. And so you can get good grades speaking your native language, but you never are matriculated into the mainstream of the educational system. So you can graduate and not even be qualified or quantified in the nature of the regular mainstream education. And then what happens is there's no colleges that are taking people in for English ESL, right? And so you can become that. But one of the things that I do know is that schools now operate in silos. It's the same way students operate in behavioral classes. They're put in behavioral classes. They stay there for their entire time in school because we isolated them from the mainstream. But one of the things that I've seen is that education has not evolved with time. Education is the same standard way that it was set up for you to sit down, shut up, and listen. Right? We don't engage kids' intellectual ability. We don't take the multiple intelligence, and we teach to that nature. We teach based on the fact that I'm in the front of the room, I'm in control. What I say goes, and if you don't listen, then you're ostracized. Why do Black and brown men get kicked out of class? Because sometimes they are disconnected because you're not connecting with me. Culturally, I don't see anything that is in this text that relates to me. So why do I engage? So what do? I disengage. And when I disengage, now I'm kicked out the classroom. And when I'm kicked out the classroom, when I come back, what happens? I'm so far behind. So what do? I want attention. So what do? I act out and I get attention. But I think for the young lady is that she probably graduated in an ESL class, speaking Spanish her whole entire time. She's honor roll and valedictorian in that group of individuals. And then when she goes to apply for a job or some college courses, she's not qualified because she didn't have to learn the normal way that the school system operates. And Hartford is very well known for it. Hartford is a very large Latino population, and the school system everywhere is just terrible. They don't care about the children anymore. And the sad thing is that people haven't made the adjustments to teach the way our children are learning. And so the children don't, I had the toughest time this morning trying to upload something to Google Docs. Somebody told me this morning. I said, "What's a Google Doc?" And they were like, "It's simple." Yeah, but it's not simple for me. Right. But I think that's the things that are happening in school. You're not teaching. The teachers aren't trained to teach. If you go to college and a teacher's program is still teaching the same way. Sit down for the students, shut up, and we teach. It's what college is. You stand up in front of you lecture. I don't want to hear that all day. Give me some hands-on material. Give me some things that I can touch. Give me some things that I can build. And real quick, I just want to share this real quick. So I taught in a private school, a very affluent private school. When I got the job, they gave me the job of teaching ancient history and medieval history. I knew ancient history. I didn't know anything about medieval history. So what did I do? I developed a syllabus where everybody took on one of the characters that was in the syllabus, and they created themselves in that character. And when they did that, all I did was sit in the back of the room and film them. And when I filmed them and they did their role, I gave them a grade on how they performed. But it also helped me develop my syllabus for the next year. And people were like, "Oh my God, you're a genius. You got my child sitting up here going to Home Depot. He's buying stuff. He's building a castle. He's building this. They're dressing up. They're dancing. They're queens. They're all of that." But I had no idea I would have failed dramatically teaching medieval history. But with that, the kids taught me. And what I did was then be able to develop a syllabus. So I say that just to say, if schools would take on that type of teaching with the newer generation of kids, we would have more kids that really are compared on their intellectual level globally. So I'm sorry.
Wow. Yes, no, and I'm so glad you shared that, because I was thinking it and you said it. Like, as I was listening to you, I'm thinking like, okay, so it sounds like there needs to be a more engaging approach where the role is reversed and you're giving the responsibility back to the child to be creative. And that is exactly what you did. So the thought that I had, you carried it out and you were able to be successful in it. And that I agree with that, like that learning style, being able to, if somebody's acting out, to say, "Hey, Mr. Smith," or "Hey, Mrs. Susie, what is it that you have to say that we can all engage on?" Because obviously there's something that's causing you to act a certain way. That way the role is now shifted to this individual. They're the spotlight. Let's see what they have to say. And then from there, being able to pivot, but still teach the curriculum. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you're genius. And they helped you do your job. Now, did you give them some of the paycheck? Because they helped you develop that syllabus, right?
I gave them some of the paycheck. I gave them me. How about that? I gave them gifts. I brought gifts. I gave them everybody got an A and B.
That's good. That's good. I love it. That's awesome. That's where the STEM is taking place to help kiddos do like that. And I think it's very doable. As a matter of fact, I know it's very doable. Right. I was even talking with that, some of the different administrators and things. It's very, very doable, but people are lazy these days. They just don't care. And the thing is that people fail to realize these kiddos, this is our future. Truly, they're going to be making laws and all sorts of policies and things, and it's going to affect us. And if we don't do right by them now and do our very best, towards these kiddos now, it's going to end in like utter failure for us. And then even the generations, you see what I'm saying? It's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. It's like, because you got, a president up here and the president can't read. You see what I'm saying? Like, first illiterate president of the United States. You know what I'm saying? This is what we're developing. So we can't have that. We can't have that. I love that you talked about purpose. Because you guys know what means CMV Action at inspireforpurpose.com. Check me out there. Also, check out our nonprofit Extended Hands Worldwide Ministries. That's ehwm.org. And you're going to be able to find out some information, things that we're doing. We're based out in California, but we have some satellite clinics here and there. And so we're doing really good things there. So that's ehwm.org and also inspireforpurpose.com. And as I always like to say here, right? Love and light and inspire for purpose. Over to you, Yassi.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And here, the purpose of Oyendia TV is to motivate, enlighten, inspire, educate, and entertain you, the viewer and listener, with each and every episode. You can find us on YouTube, IG, Facebook. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Samsung Music, Amazon Music, RSS, Deezer, podcast, a bunch of places. Just Google Oyendia TV. We're just all over the place. Thanks be to God. I will say that because that is the purpose. Again, this is why we're here. This is why we have amazing guests. This is why I have amazing co-hosts. This is why we work together, because this is the purpose. We want to positively motivate and shape the world. Let's get out of that negative funk that we've been dealing with. Let's turn the lens, turn the page, look at it from a different perspective. When you encounter that negative situation, don't take it as a negative. It could be that positive that is trying to help you learn a lesson to what? To help you grow, right? And develop to a bigger and better person each and every day. That is your purpose. That is your goal, to be a bigger and better person each and every day with unique purposes like we all do and have, right? And so with that in mind, I want to give a big shout out to my sponsors, our here. And I say my sponsors because Cece is the sponsor of Oyendia TV with her businesses and nonprofit organization. Nadine is also another sponsor for Oyendia TV. Also, shout out to Collective Wear. We're about to play the promo, and Divine Beauty Accessories. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Sponsored by Collective Wear. Sponsored by Divine Beauty and Accessories. Watch Oyendia TV Thursday, 7:30 p.m.
Yes, and for those who are interested in being a sponsor, we do have sponsor packages available. Just simply email oyendiatv@gmail.com and just subject sponsor, and I'll go ahead and share that with you. And so that way you can see what sponsor packages are available. Again, we are a worldwide platform. And thank you again for the sponsors, the viewers, and listeners. And for those who want to know more about me, I mean, just go on Google or Safari, Internet Explorer, what have you, whichever your favorite search engine is, and just type in my name, Yessie Rodriguez. Professional actress, a model, podcaster, business owner, designer, a little bit of everything. I'm one of those that I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, because I believe that we are all created for multiple purposes. And you don't know if you're good at it if you don't try it. You first have to try it. And like Aaliyah's song, if at first you don't succeed, try again. You got to keep trying and trying and trying. Also, yes, I know, right? I love that. I love the smiles and faces. Yes. And the Carmen lines. For those who don't know, this is my favorite. I'm sorry, I always have to end with this quote, because this is just food for thought for people to help us shift our mindset. The carbon line, for those who don't know, is a barrier. It's 62 miles above the sea level, and it's part of what separates Earth, where it cuts off, to space. And so that old saying that you heard from back in the day by Biggie Smalls, the sky's the limit, please stop from saying that, because what you're technically doing is thinking of the carbon line. You're technically putting a barrier in your mentality, right? And so the quote that I created back in 2011, the sky is never the limit because the galaxies are endless. So thank you all for tuning into Oyendia TV. Until next time.